Hello and welcome to this Astrology and Manifestation Masterclass. I want to present to you a formula today that I reflected on over the last couple of months studying astrology because, manifestation, the law of attraction is such a buzzword nowadays. And I don't believe that we can sit around waiting for things to happen depending on, what frequency we are in. And there's such a big mystery around the concept of how can I attract what I want to manifest? And I think the whole intention for us is to actually understand where these desires come from, which astrology and evolutionary astrology in particular can help us understand. And I've really been influenced by the work of Jeffrey Wolf Green, who basically is the founding father of evolutionary astrology, has written 2 Pluto books, so books on Pluto, because his astrology is really based on Pluto. And even this approach today is really based on Pluto as one of the main planets to help us understand our desires and also actualize them. So I want to present to you the formula that I came up with during readings with clients, observing my own behaviors and patterns, and also my own intentions and my own desires in my own life, and what brought me into actualizing them, and also what helped me understand the core intention behind every single desire. Because one thing that I definitely want to make clear straight up from the beginning, and I invite you to reflect on, is that the desires that you have are actually not what you want. So it's not even about the desire, it's actually something deeper that this desire is representing for you in your life. And that's definitely something we want to dive into today as well. And I want to use the zodiac wheel and the archetypes and 4 specific planets to help you understand what these desires in your life are all about and how you can actually actualize them. And at the end of this little presentation, I will give you the opportunity to basically get your own individual formula that will help you manifest and understand how you can attract the things in your life and how you can come to fulfill your desires and fulfill the wishes and wants that you have with your unique manifestation formula. So if that's something you're interested in, then definitely keep on watching this video and also stay tuned for this manifestation formula that I will present at the end of this masterclass, because I believe that this will help you so much in actualizing all of the desires and intentions that you have. So in order to start the presentation, I will share my screen and I will share with you the natural zodiac, which is represented by this little chart right here. So this is the natural zodiac with all the 12 archetypes and the houses they are correlated to, and also the planets the planets that are correlated to the specific archetypes and the houses. And I think it's really important to have a look at the natural zodiac, no matter how your birth chart looks, because obviously depending on your rising sign, you will have different energies, which are the zodiacs, in different houses, which are the areas in your life. So not everyone has an Aries rising, for example, which would be the case with this chart, right? So that would be the natural zodiac if you had an Aries rising, because then the rising sign on the ascendant would be Aries and the rest of your birth chart would look like the natural zodiac. But yet, let's say if you had a Capricorn rising, you had Capricorn in your first house, you had Aquarius in the second, and so on and so forth. And then we also have to take into consideration if you had an interception, for example, and the house cusps are just set up a little bit differently. But I don't want to confuse you with that, because for this purpose and for this intention for this masterclass, we want to look at the natural zodiac, because it will give us a framework and the foundation of how this manifestation formula works. Because the whole start of everything, of every desire, and even of your life, is located in the 8th house in Pluto in Scorpio. And the reason for that is basically, if you look at what Pluto represents, what Scorpio represents, what the 8th house even represents, it's death and rebirth. And if you believe in the concept of reincarnation, you understand that Pluto in itself represents reincarnation, right? Death and rebirth. So you coming into this life is the result of that Pluto desire of transforming something, of being reborn, of transforming a specific pattern, of going down into the darkness, right, and rising up from the darkness in order to transform something in this physical world. And that brings us back to the opposite sign, which is Taurus, and the second house, and also ruled by Venus. So you have a desire with Pluto in the 8th house to transform a specific pattern, a specific theme in this life, right? Your soul has this desire, and in order to actualize this desire, you incarnate, rise from the darkness into the physical world, which is represented by Venus and by Taurus and by the second house, okay? So that's really important to understand straight up from the beginning with every single desire that you have, because life and you being alive is the first desire that your soul had. And it will essentially be the framework of every single desire that you have later on as well. So that's really, really important to understand. Because now I invite you to observe every single desire that you have in the earthly plane, so to speak, that is probably represented by Venus right here. But these earthly desires are always represented or have a deeper core intention, right? And the core intention can be always brought back to that Pluto desire that made you come into this life in the first place. So I want you to really reflect on that. You have these earthly desires that are represented by Venus and the second house in Taurus, right? But at the core, they can always be brought back to that Pluto desire that you had in the first place. And I think it's really important to then highlight also Jeffrey Wolf Green's approach from having Pluto and the polarity point of Pluto that always falls back into the second house, right? Always, not always depending on the location of your Pluto in your chart, but just from the perspective of the natural zodiac. So please take into consideration that your Pluto doesn't have to be in the 8th house in your birth chart, so it wouldn't always be the second house. But I just, we look at the natural zodiac, so it would always be Scorpio, Taurus, Scorpio, Pluto, and the 8th house, and the opposite sign, which is second house, Venus and Taurus, right? So that's always the polarity point from the perspective of the natural zodiac. And the important thing to understand then is that this polarity is the axis, how I see it, the axis of manifestation, the axis of actualizing our desires and understanding our desires on this earthly plane. And the reason for that being is, or how I basically came up with this idea and reflections, was when I discovered what the word desire actually means. Because the word desire it's actually a Latin word, and the translation of it is from source. So every desire that you have basically comes from source. That's something we have to really understand, which means if we translate it even deeper, right, that these desires that come from source, they just come to us in order to actualize something deeper. Because what happens when you have a desire? Let's say you want to have a relationship, or you want to have a specific job or money, or whatever it is. Every desire that you have forces you to take action in a specific way, right? Because you want to actualize this desire. And that's actually an indicator of that these desires that come from source, the only intention behind them is for us to take action into a specific direction, basically. We want to take action. Source wants us to take action. And I believe that we are a part of source, and just our soul, our higher self, is a part of source. So it's basically a message, an intuitive hit from source to drive us into the right direction towards our soul purpose. Okay? That's definitely what I believe and how I see this polarity. And it gets even clearer if you look what the planet of action is and where it's actually located in the natural zodiac as well. Because the planet of action is Mars. And just look at Mars here. Mars is the first house. It's initiating, right? It's Aries, it's courage, it's Mars. It's also your soul's purpose, right? That's correlated to Mars and taking action as well, because everything that your soul wants is to transform Pluto, right, in this physical world in order to actualize that soul purpose, okay? And that soul's purpose is always actually Pluto in your chart, right? That the intention for transforming something really, really deep, a soul pattern or something that you have not mastered in a past life, something that contributes to your evolution. That's why it's so important to take into consideration where Mars is located in your chart, because that will indicate how you actualize these Pluto and Venus desires, right? And both of them, as we've now learned, are correlated to that higher desire, which is correlated to your purpose. So you have the intention, you have the first basically desire with Pluto, and that first desire coming into this world is reflected or linked to that earthly desire, which is represented by Venus in your chart and the second house Taurus. And then you have Mars that helps you actualize these desires. And with every desire that you are able to manifest or are able to achieve, you will realize over time, and it definitely takes time to realize that and to consciously observe that it was never about this desire in the first place. That desire is not what fulfills you, because if that would be the case, Source wouldn't present us with a new desire the minute we hit a certain goal, a certain desire, a certain vision, right? Because that's probably something you're really familiar with, that every time we get the relationship, we get the job, we get the desire that we were longing for so long, we get it. Maybe we are satisfied for a second, but then the next desire comes. And why is that? It's because Source gives us a new desire, right? We download it, so to speak, in order to take action towards our evolution. Because it's never, that's the thing, we are never done with transforming, with death and rebirth. And I see life in general and the journey of life, it's a constant death and rebirth moment. And that's where we have to take Pluto and the archetype of Pluto into consideration again as well, because what Pluto also represents in Scorpio is merging, right? And every time you meet a desire, you merge with that desire and you transform, because the minute you meet a specific desire, you are not the same person anymore, right? You almost shift into a new frequency, shift into a new vibration. You have learned that you are able to manifest something, right, which makes you feel powerful, which is again represented by Scorpio and by Mars, feeling powerful, feeling courageous. And at the same time, because you meet these desires, your level of self-worth, which is represented by Taurus, second house, increases. So you feel worthy. And a lot of manifestation principles, and if you follow, for example, the work of Lacey Phillips, she stresses that over and over again, that the ability to manifest things only comes down to your level of worthiness. So if you believe you are worthy of something, and to a really, really large degree, the whole life, or life in general, is a journey of learning that you are really, really worthy. Because we come here into this world and we are so conditioned by society, by our upbringing, that we feel we are not worthy, or there's something fundamentally wrong with us. And then we see other people achieving things and we don't achieve them, so we think there's something wrong with us. So the process of manifesting things that we don't yet have is really a journey of discovering your own self-worth, because then you become a vibrational match. And that's what the law of attraction is sort of all about, right? Becoming a vibrational match to your actual desires. So I think that's really important to take into consideration as well, because it brings us back to the whole polarity between Scorpio and Taurus again, right? So just to recap that for a little bit before I go into the fourth element of the birth chart and or the natural zodiac and how you manifest and actualize desires. So everything starts with Pluto, the death and rebirth experience for this life, or death and rebirth intention for this life that your soul had, right? Your soul and the universe, if you want to say it like that, they made a contract to transform a specific pattern for this life, to have a sort of evolutionary process. So Source and the universe grows and expands because it experiences itself on this earthly plane, okay? So you came here into this physical world, which is Taurus. And why is it Taurus? Because Taurus represents all the five senses that we have, that we only have in this physical world, right? It's tasting things, touching things, seeing the beauty in things, luxury, all of that. That's Taurus, really enjoying life to the fullest, Venusian, all of that pleasure, right? But also, again, beauty and self-worth, and also money. So, and when you reflect on your life and everything that you want to manifest, everything you want to manifest, I can guarantee you, has some sort of Venus background, right? If it's money, you want more money, abundance. If it's self-worth, if it's beauty, if you want to look prettier, or if it's relationships, love, all of that, it can all be brought down to Venus in your chart, right? It's all Venusian. But the deeper meaning of that Venusian desire can always be brought back to Pluto and your evolutionary journey, which is also reflected by your North Node and South Node. So that's definitely also something we want to take into consideration. And Mars, the planet of taking action and being courageous and overcoming fear as well, is the planet that helps us take action. So wherever Mars is located in your chart, he will help you take action towards your desires, okay? So all of that sounds pretty simple and easy, but what is actually the one thing that holds us back from actualizing this desire? And I think it can be broken down to two things, actually. First of all, the South Node, right? Which would be, in this case, obviously then 7th house Libra, but more so like wherever the South Node is located in your chart, because it's the comfort zone. It's what we know and where we come from. So it's a lot of the time there's a lot of resistance and fear from the unknown, from stepping towards something that is completely outside of our comfort zone. And that's why people don't actualize their soul's purpose or their North Node placement, because it's completely on the opposite side of their comfort zone, right? Obviously, that's not easy. We are creatures of habit. We like to be in the comfort, especially because we have been so conditioned to be in fight or flight mode, right? Because there could be danger on the other side of what we know. And that's why we don't actualize our North Node placement, because it feels so uncomfortable, right? Because it obviously feels more comfortable if something is familiar. And that's when anxiety increases. But one thing that holds us back the most, in my opinion, and from observing multiple charts and reading multiple souls on this planet, and also from my own journey, to be really, really honest with you, it's Chiron. The Chiron wound, Chiron is the wounded healer, and it will be the deepest wound in your birth chart. And it also goes back to feeling rejected. And this fear of feeling rejected can be brought back to the fear of ending up lonely. And because we are creatures of, we want to be surrounded by people, we need relationships to grow and evolve, which can also be brought back to Pluto, right? Merging with people or relationships or anything. We have to have relationships in order to grow. So our biggest fear in life is to end up alone, which again, if you look at the natural zodiac, you have the first house, the house of the self, right? And then you have the 7th house, which that would be the place of the South Node, where you are together with people. And we are so afraid to move away from the familiarity of being with people. And we are so afraid of ending up alone. That's why we are so afraid of rejection, right? If people we know reject us, or if even people we don't know reject us, we are so scared of ending up alone, because that would be a threat for our evolutionary process. If we wouldn't have people around our life, we wouldn't grow and evolve. If you wouldn't have a relationship, which is pretty hard, because you also have a relationship to material things or specific subjects and all of that, but we also need relationships with people as mirrors in order to grow and evolve. So our deepest fear is that we will end up alone and rejected, right? Because it also is a really, really big threat towards our self-worth, right? Which is the intention for this life anyway, to learn how worthy we are. So that Chiron wound that you will have in your birth chart will always sort of stop you from moving forward, from taking action, from actualizing your desires, or maybe even give you the mindset that you're not able to manifest these desires. You're not able and worthy of having these desires because you've been rejected for a specific thing before. So that Chiron rejection wound in your birth chart will always sort of stop you from manifesting and from attracting the things that you want, from actualizing your desires, however you want to phrase that. So that's why it's really, really important to look at your Chiron placement and really work with it. work with it. Because Chiron, and by the way, you can't see Chiron in the natural zodiac because Chiron is actually an asteroid. So it's not technically a planet, but it's really correlated or associated with Virgo and the archetype of Virgo in the 6th house, which is like your daily routines, your daily habits, your health as well, how you relate to your body, all of that. And Chiron, I see that Chiron is basically linked to Virgo, because Virgo is also alchemy. Virgo is also improving things and healing things. And Chiron, in the mythology of it, is the wounded healer. So he has a really, really core essential wound that always remains in his life. But he, at a certain degree, he masters to use this wound to heal other people. So even though he can't heal himself, he heals other people. And I think if we look at our journey and our evolutionary process, the greatest gift that we can give to people, to the world at large, is to share our journey in order to heal others as well. And I say that because, again, it's also my own sort of journey, because I have Chiron conjunct my sun, and my deepest wound that I had to heal was to find my own identity and to find my own light, because I have the sun in the 8th house. It's Leo, it's intercepted, it's really, really dull, so to speak, and I lost my identity. I completely lost my identity because of my South Node again, because I have the South Node in the 7th house, a lot of codependency, people pleasing, and I had to find my own uniqueness. But for a long, long time, I was hindered, and I didn't do that, and I was not able to actualize all of my desires and intentions for this life, because that Chiron wound stopped me so much. I didn't think that what I create was good enough. I didn't think that I as a person was good enough. And I was really not sure if what I contribute to the world would be of value. I questioned everything, and I thought I need other people in order to actualize what I want or what I desire in this life. And I didn't see that I myself have the courage and can have the courage to take action towards my own desires, to live life on my own terms. And that's what basically stopped me, right? That's what stopped me. But deep down inside, I had this deep desire to see myself as a powerful creator, which is Pluto in my 12th house. I want to merge with source and almost deliver and channel information to you, to the collective, which is also the 12th house, for us all to grow and evolve. That's always what I felt. I always, even when I was a child, I wanted to change the world, as quirky as that sounds, but that was my intention. I was like, I don't know what I want to become, but I know that my life has to be big, and I want to change the world. I want to make an impact. I want my life to be meaningful and powerful. I want my life to be of service. I want to help others. And one of the quotes that definitely inspired me the most was that someone at some point would say to me, because of you, I didn't give up. Because of you, I could become happy. And that's why I now help people to find their purpose, to actualize their desires, to find their truth and their calling, which is also really represented by my North Node in the 1st house, right? And my Mars actually is in Gemini, right? My Mars is in Gemini, on the cusp of between basically on my descendant in Gemini. So that's why I need to talk about these things. I need to share my insights, right? And it's almost as if the information that I get from Pluto in my 12th house, which is again from source, my desires and all of that, because all of the things that I share, all of the information, even in this masterclass, come from my own desire of exploring the universe, understanding what's going on, how this world works, and how we can make sense of all of that, right? And that 12th house desire, that Pluto desire, is brought back or basically channeled through my Mars, actualized by my Mars, taking action towards sharing what I know, sharing the insights that I have, so other people can get my information, right? And hopefully that will help them, right? That's what it is. And then you would look at my Venus, which my Venus is in the 9th house of finding a higher purpose, studying a higher knowledge, finding a spiritual principle that works for me, right? And that's ultimately what helps me manifest all of my desires. When I follow this blueprint of what is my Pluto, what is the deeper intention of my Pluto, right? And how can I actualize this intention with my Mars placement and have the support from my Venus desires, which is learning, higher education, all of that. And that will bring me back into my second house of feeling worthy, because the minute I share this knowledge, I know that my life is meaningful. I know that I am so fulfilled because I do what I love. And I know that it's helpful for me, but at the same time, because I can share it, it's helpful for you as well. And I know that when I end this masterclass, I will be so fulfilled. I will be so happy because I've literally done what I always wanted to do, right? Which was that Pluto desire of impacting the world to a certain degree. And the metrics don't matter in that scenario, because when we bring it back to that one quote where I said, like, the minute someone tells me that because of me, he didn't give up, or she didn't give up, because of me, she pushed forward, or he pushed forward, that's when I know that I actualized my Pluto desire. That's everything that counts to me. That's when I know that I made an impact and that we can all create a ripple effect. So that's just my personal sort of story towards that actualization of my desires. But you know, your personal Pluto placement, your Mars placement, your Venus placement, and your Chiron, these together will tell you the story of how you actualize your desires. Because one thing that I really want you to take away from this little introductory, which is probably not a little introductory, but it's that these Venusian desires that you have, they are just the surface. And there is a deeper core to that. There's a deeper meaning to that. It's not about the actual thing. It's not about the car. It's not about the relationship. It's about a deeper meaning. There's a deeper meaning behind that. So what's the actual intention behind these Venusian desires that you have, right? It's that actually the universe and your higher self is wanting you to take a certain action, right? And this action always correlates to that Pluto in your birth chart. And that will actualize the transformation that your soul wants to make in this life anyways. So that's my manifestation formula, and that's how I see we can manifest the things that we want to desire. Because also one thing that I want you to understand, it's not about the material things necessarily. And the law of attraction, I love that we are so conscious and now observing how can we use the law of attraction, how can we manifest. But I also want to stress that I don't believe in just sitting around and, you know, wanting the universe to deliver to us. I believe that we are worthy of having everything, but I also believe that we actually don't want everything. We have specific wants and needs and desires that again correlate to us feeling worthy and feeling fulfilled. And usually it's not only represented by that Venusian desire, it's actually Pluto in your birth chart. Because once you find that purpose, that deeper meaning, that deeper transformation, and once you align with that, you will realize that you actually don't want that money. It's not about that money, because most of the time it's the freedom behind the money or something else behind the money. It's not about the actual thing that we think it is. It's not about that Venusian superficial, and I say quote unquote superficial, that's not a judgment or anything, right? It's like the superficial sort of attraction that we have to something that is beautiful. But it's not that. Even when you see people that are beautiful and you think, oh, I would like to look as this person on Instagram, it's not about you looking like this person. It's just the assumption that you have what kind of life this person has because of the beauty, right? It's not about the superficial thing or the instant thing that comes into our mind. It's a deeper meaning, a deeper thing that lays behind or underneath that Venusian desire. And that's, again, the deeper message of Pluto in that case. So I want you to reflect on that. And if you would like to have your own personal manifestation, desire, fulfillment formula towards self-worth, towards, again, fulfillment, and towards also understanding your soul's intention on a deeper level, I now take on clients, individual readings, basically, to help you figure out your specific manifestation success formula. I call it the Astro Manifestation Formula, but I want to really, really bring across that it's not about getting every freaking thing that you want. It's really about fulfillment, self-worth, and understanding your soul's purpose to a deeper core. Because what I always say with the birth chart reading, with studying astrology, it's about meeting your soul. It's like a date with your soul over and over again. You date your soul to understand your soul to the core, and then, you know, work together. It's a working together with your soul, but also with the universe, to actualize and to contribute to the evolution of all of us. And that's why I love to do that. So if you want to know how you can be more fulfilled, if you want to know how to meet your desires, if you want to know how to understand your desires and your Pluto placement and your North Node and all of that together, then you can follow the link down below to basically get your manifestation formula. You can contact me on Instagram, Magic Kathi Official, or info@abracadabrababy.de. Write me an email to get your manifestation formula. I have a special sale going on with that introduction, but definitely be quick about it, because I will automate it in the future. So now is the chance to get really, really individual readings from me for a really, really amazing price point, because I want everyone to have access to that. And I just love everyone to be able to understand their purpose, to understand their desires, to understand their worth, and to actualize all of that. But in the future, it will be an automated thing where I break down all of the 12 archetypes and placements. So not right now, it's really, really individual. It's really hands-on. It's me sitting down with your chart and going deep into it. So that's the best value you can get. And I would love to work with you. I would love to chat with you. Again, you can contact me on Instagram if you have any questions, or just write me an email if you have any questions, and then we can have a chat around that. I will stop now sharing the screen so we can see each other again for the end. It was my pleasure to deliver that to you, and I would love to hear your opinion on it. I would love to hear what you have to say, or what you think about this formula, how you see these insights. If you got, you know, any takeaways from this masterclass, if there's something new you've learned, share it in the comments, share it with us so we can have a conversation around that, because I feel like that's really what it is all about. And that's not just my Mars and Gemini speaking, wanting to hear everyone's opinion and, you know, sharing all of that. But I think it's really important for us to have a conversation around these topics, so we understand that it's not only the desire that we feel like would make us happy. It's really something deeper, and it all goes back to you actualizing your soul's intention. And I pray that you do that, and I would love to speak to you. And I'm excited to deliver your manifestation formula to you. And I'm so excited to see all of your manifestations come through, right? Because that's what we all want, right? Having success. And there's probably no better start into this decade than understanding your desires, understanding how you can feel worthy, understanding your worth in this world, your value in this world, and your contribution. And that's how you can step in your magic.